Weird things science can't explain. While many believe science to be an infallible process that can explain anything through trial and error, there are actually many simple things that we take for granted that science cannot explain. Why do we yawn? How do animals know where the North and South poles are? These are questions that science cannot answer, and we'll tell you about those and more in our video about weird things science can't explain. Number 15. Why we yawn. Despite the fact that pretty much everyone does it every day, scientists don't really know why we yawn. It's not really an essential body function. For instance, if you suppress a yawn, nothing bad really happens. You could probably go your whole life without yawning. Yet we all do it, probably multiple times a day. Why? Well, scientists have a guess, but it's really not a definitive answer. The most commonly accepted answer is that we yawn to balance out an oxygen imbalance in our body. This imbalance is proposed to come from overworking the body or an overtired body. The other theory is that it is actually used to cool down the brain, sort of like the fan on a laptop. In an experiment, scientists found that while yawns are contagious from one subject to another, if the subject was wearing a cooling pack on their head, the yawn wouldn't catch on. Number 14. Why ice is slippery. Okay, well we know that ice is slippery, but we don't really know why or how it is. Why can you glide across a bed of ice but not on a big boulder? Some people subscribe to the idea that since water expands when it freezes, by stepping or skating on it, we'll compress it back down to a liquid state and glide across it like water. That's not really true though. The weight of a human isn't nearly enough pressure to squish ice back into water. Others believe that on top of ice is a thin layer of water that never freezes over because it is partly exposed to air, allowing us to slip and slide to our delight. All of these are just theories though. There's really no definitive answer as to why ice is slippery. Number 13. How many species are on Earth? Scientists can do their best to catalog species we know, and try their best to seek out undiscovered or uncatalogued species or organisms. But it's pretty much impossible for us to know how many species are on Earth. New species could be mutating as we speak, and there's just too many species of bugs and plants hiding out in the forests. While we have cataloged and identified around 2 million species of organisms, scientists estimate that there could be anywhere from 5 million to 10 million on Earth. And that's really just us guessing, because again, we can never really find them all. Number 12. Why we have puberty. Humans are pretty much the only primate to go through that awkward growing stage we know as puberty, adolescence, or the terrible teens. You might think that every animal goes through a little bit of terrible teenagehood, but nope, it's just us humans. We don't even really know why this happens to us. Our closest primate cousins, the monkey, go straight from infancy into adulthood as they age. However, they also don't wean off their mother's milk until around 7 years of age, enforcing a reliance on their mother. Humans are weaned much sooner, establishing a level of independence that ultimately allows the mother to reproduce again. Many scientists believe that this evolutionary trait has allowed our population to boom to the billions of humans we have on Earth now. Still, it doesn't explicitly explain why we need to go through such a tough growth spurt with an influx of hormones that is pretty difficult to navigate. Number 11. The placebo effect. We don't really know why the placebo effect exists. Some argue that it actually doesn't. If you don't already know, placebo describes a situation in which someone is given a fake treatment without knowing it's fake and believes that they are getting better, and thus actually do get better. How does this happen? Well, some believe that the medicine doesn't work, but the body heals itself half the time. This might change the way you think about modern medicine. If a placebo can heal your symptoms half the time, that means that your body can efficiently solve its own health problems without drugs a huge fraction of the time. Number 10. Intuition. Whether you call it a sixth sense, a psychic feeling, vibes, or a gut reaction, intuition is something that humans and other animals use as a guiding light in our lives. That feeling you get when you know something will go awry with a business deal, or when you're talking to a stranger and get the feeling that he might be up to something sinister, that is your intuition. Intuition can pretty much be described as that feeling you get when you can sense something is going to go wrong, or right. How do we gather this feeling though? Some of us perceive it as a supernatural intervention, while others believe it to be a sense of instinct that comes from centuries of evolution. We have a whole lot of theories, but we don't really have a clear-cut answer as to what gives us that gut feeling we love to listen to. Or don't. Number 9. Near-death experiences. Those who have gone to the brink of death and returned, or those that were legally dead then revived, have often described what they saw as an afterlife. Many of them have felt the sensation that they were going through a tunnel towards shining light. Others claim to have seen and talked to their loved ones who had departed. While some scientists believe that these are hallucinations concocted by a traumatized brain, others believe that this is a phenomena that science cannot fully explain. Number 8. How magnetoreception works. An essential tool of navigation for many organisms, from plants to animals and even some bacteria, is magnetoreception. This is the sense of the magnetic poles of the Earth, where they are, and magnetic energy pulsing around the Earth. Birds use this to migrate during the change of seasons. Sea animals use this to find their sense of direction in the nearly completely dark depths of the ocean, and cows use this to face north when they eat. No, we don't really know why cows face north when they eat, but they do. While we understand that these organisms have a sense of magnetism in the atmosphere, we don't really understand how they perceive magnetism and how they use this to navigate themselves. While it might seem like humans are one of the most dominant species on Earth, there are plenty of things that seemingly lesser animals have mastered that we barely understand. Number 7. What dark matter is. When you look at the entirety of our universe, it seems like there's so much empty space between one planet and the next. Just a void. In actuality, there isn't a void here, but a mass called dark matter, or so the theory goes. Scientists pose that the universe is 80% filled with something called dark matter, a material that does not emit or reflect light and is entirely unobservable. Our first theories about dark matter popped up a little over half a century ago, and we haven't made much progress on the idea since then. Some scientists believe, however, that dark matter may not exist at all, and that this original hypothesis was wrong. Number 6. The size of the universe. We've determined the size of Earth all the way back in the age of ancient Greek civilizations. Yet when it comes to the size of our bigger home, the universe proper, we have no idea. Sure, we know the size of our observable universe, basically as far as technology allows us to see, but in terms of the whole picture, we have no clue. Some believe that the universe is infinite, ever expanding outwards so that one may never see the end. Others believe that the universe has a horizon, or at least the three-dimensional equivalent of the end of the universe. Does the universe exist in a finite shape? If you drove towards the end of the map of the universe, would you end up where you started? We really have no clue. We may never know, since the universe is so hilariously big that the sense of scale pretty much makes no sense to us. Number 5. How many planets we got? We all learned in school that there were 9 planets in our solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Well, that is until Pluto was officially demoted from planetary status around a decade ago since it was too small. Then it was reinstated as a planet again by some definitions a few years later. Would this mean that all the asteroids in the belt between Mars and Jupiter would be classified as planets too? It all got even more confusing when we found evidence of a larger planet on the furthest edge of our solar system that we can't perceive clearly, and then a massive object larger than Pluto in our first asteroid belt. So yeah, it turns out the definition for a planet is much vaguer than we originally thought. Number 4. Why we evolved to be right-handed. Okay, so not every human is right-handed, but most of our modern civilizations are. Even those of us that aren't right-handed end up with their left hand being dominant. Why would a species of animal choose to be only proficient at doing day-to-day tasks with just one side of their bodies? Our primate cousins walk on all fours when they utilize tools, or set to a task that requires their forehands, and they don't seem to favor one hand or the other. Even primitive humans seem to make tools that could be efficient in either hand. So why did humans go through the process of lateralization, aka picking a dominant hand? Some suggest that it was societally developed for convenience. Being able to make a product that was used by just one hand instead of 2 different products for each hand was just easier. Number 3. How a bicycle stays upright. In 2011, it came to light that despite the fact that we've had bikes for over a century, we don't really know how bicycles stay upright. That's right, when bicycle engineers manufacture bikes, most of the time it is the product of trial and error until a perfectly balanced bike comes into existence. There are a whole list of variables that come into play when designing a bike, and we haven't narrowed down which set of variables or what set of formulas definitively make a great bike. Number 2. The exact length of a coastline. It's pretty much impossible for us to measure the true perimeter of any country, or any landmass for that matter. All we can really do is measure at the most convenient approximation possible. How could this be? Well, take a look at any old coastline. The landmass juts out, breaks up into rock outcroppings, and is much too irregular to be measured. Most coastlines or border measurements are made with a give or take sort of mentality. Number 1. How gravity works. You know that thing that Isaac Newton discovered when the apple fell on his head? Gravity is seemingly one of the most essential elements of physics in our universe. It keeps us bound to the Earth and keeps the Earth rotating around the sun, etc., etc. Yet we don't really have an exact understanding of how gravity works. Why do huge objects just pull tinier objects in towards it? It's not the same as magnetism. In fact, magnets snapping together are actually a stronger force than gravity is. Isn't it crazy that there are still things in our world that science can't explain? If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and share the content. And be sure to watch out for new great videos coming every few days.